From July of 2013 to August of 2014, I worked at the Mob Museum in downtown Las Vegas. My official title was docent. I would give tours. I would stand by exhibits and answer questions. I would, talk to guests about becoming members. If they had a question about the exhibit, I would, discuss with them the history of Nevada and the history of the Mob Museum. I left in August of 2014 to take a temporary full-time e-hire position at CSN. It was one of the 3 or 4 times I was an e-hire here. And so I left to take a full-time position as an e-hire here at CSN. About a year or so later, or about 6 months later, a while later, Ashley Erickson, who was my supervisor at the Mob Museum, she approached me and wanted to talk about, what the Mob Museum was doing to celebrate Nevada Day on October 31st. And so we talked about me doing a presentation about Nevada history. I put one together. You'll be able to see the presentation in the page, the Tenure Binder page that this an audio file is attached to. The goal was to share interesting highlights and stories about Nevada with kind of a theme of being, why people come to Nevada and how people make it in Nevada. And so it's kind of that story of, I wanted to tell the story of, people coming and making a life, winning big, losing big, winning big again. I talked about the First Lady of Las Vegas, Helen J. Stewart. I talked about an interesting historical person, Bill Tomiyasu. He was a Las Vegas farmer and horticulturist he lived in Vegas from the 30s to the 60s. So he was in Vegas for a while, one of the most famous at the time period, one of the most famous residents of Las Vegas. He's an excellent example of that. Comes to Vegas, makes it big. He actually lost pretty big. He lost his land for his farm. But what did he do? He just moved to another part of the valley and became a horticulturist. He decorative plants. So it's kind of that example of, coming, making a life, losing, winning again. So, I wanted to tell some of those interesting stories. I talked about the mob, obviously. Mo Dalitz was the interesting person I talked about, where he kind of exemplifies that you're criminals elsewhere. You come to Vegas and you're a businessman. You kind of skirt that line between legitimate and illegitimate. And the Mob Museum kind of talked about that too as the theme. And so that was the presentation. So how it worked was, so on Nevada Day, the way the Mob Museum is structured is people pay, and then you just stroll through the museum. You just walk through the museum and see all these exhibits. And so what I was on the 3rd floor in one of the conference rooms set up. And you can see pictures on the page below of what that looked like. And so what would happen is, we would, when they bought their tickets, people would be told, hey, on the 3rd floor at 10:30 or noon, whatever, you can watch a presentation about Nevada. And so as it got closer to the time of my presentation, let's say 10:30, other docents and me, we'd kind of go out and say, hey, we're doing a presentation right now. It's about 30 minutes. And so it was just, people strolling through the museum, and then, they just come in. The Mob Museum did advertise on their website, and so there were a few people who came just to see the presentation, because they saw it on the website. So there were a few people like that that just came to see it. Most of the people, though, were just on the tour, just on their. It's a self-guided tour. You just walk through. They do have tours you can do, but most of the people they were just strolling through, and they listened to my presentation. We answered questions, and then they went on their merry way. And then an hour later, I'd do another presentation. It was a really good experience. I enjoyed it. I did it for 3 years, October 2015, October 2016, October 2017. We managed about 40, depending on the presentation, about 40 people. After 2017, they wanted to, the Mall Museum, they wanted to change it up. That's what you do in the museum, is you want to change up the exhibits and stuff and what they do. So they just want to do some other things. But it was a good experience for me. I really enjoyed it. It was an excellent example of me sharing scholarly information to the community.